Okay, hello, welcome, bonjour, bienvenue, hola, hey, and however else you say hello. Hi, welcome to the first of today's Adobe masterclasses. I am David Cousens. I will be presenting this. Hopefully, some of you will know what I do, but I'm an illustrator. God, everybody's saying hello now. Hello. There's an awful lot of you. That's lovely. Not at all concerning. Yeah, I've been illustrating for about 9 years. I run my own company called Surface Limited, and I've worked for a number of clients over the years. And I suppose I'm most well known for my my style's a blend of Eastern versus Western stuff brought together. Quite a lot of animation-based stuff in my history. Hello to absolutely tons of you. It's brilliant. As it's a masterclass, it'd be absolutely fantastic if you can fire off to me lots of questions. I'm really happy to answer them, and the more you ask me, the better I can make it for you. So that'd be absolutely fantastic. So at any point you've got any questions, you just fire them away, and I will try to answer them as much as I can, because I'll be sort of looking at them off my screen there. Right. Today, I will be talking to you about how I use Adobe's apps on the mobile, on the iPhone, the iPad. Other phones are available. How I integrate them into my workflow, and how the new apps, because they've been really improved, they can really help streamline things and make things more impressive. So I'll be showing you a bit of kind of a typical workflow, working a bit backwards and forwards, and yeah, and hopefully you'll get some good stuff from it. So we'll get started, I guess. And hello from all over the world. It's amazing. There's loads of you saying hello. I will cover somebody's just asked a question about how to get brushes in from CC into Photoshop. I will cover that, don't worry. Right, so I'm going to go on with my rough routine of how this would work. So I'm going to go over to the iPad first. Take this here. I'm using an Adobe Touch Pro Pixel Touch stylus. For those of you that are interested in the text of that. Now, some of the apps are really nice, and Touch Pro is actually made to be pressure sensitive, so you can get some quite nice stuff. And it smooths out like Illustrator and will draw the stuff for you. So that's quite nice if you've just got time just to scribble stuff out. Hold on, we got a question before we start. It's a question about using Rgb and Cmyk. What I would normally do is I will work in Rgb because you get more options with filters and everything like that in Photoshop. I use Photoshop Creative Cloud 2015. And if it's going to print, so it needs to be Cmyk, I will then make a copy of the image flat and then convert it, because then you don't have anything odd going on with the colours, because if you just try a straight conversion, you tend to find the Cmyk changes the way that overlay layers particularly interact with things. So I always do Rgb first, and then move on to Cmyk as I need to. Right, let's go back, because what I would normally do, that was just showing off Adobe Draw's stylus capability. Let's go to Adobe Sketch. There we go. And here's something I made earlier. Now this is actually displaying sideways because I actually tilted my iPad when I was drawing, because I wanted to do something portrait. So let's get this pen working. Hold pen to connect. There we go, and it's connected. Yeah, so basically what I would do, I've just selected like a blue pencil. Well, that's not a blue pencil, but yeah, there we go. There's a blue, and there's a pencil. And yeah, I just like scribble away. And I want to come up with, because Adobe focused on my illustration gone insane topic. So I want to do something which was very typically me, which was a bit, I love doing character pieces where they're a bit off the wall, a bit strange. And I like creating worlds. I'm really interested with stories and things along those lines. So in this case, I want to draw something weird. So I'm working on. It's not released yet, but I'm developing my own comic, and it's kind of a fantasy sci-fi hybrid thing. And so I came up with this idea of drawing this this sky turtle, and this is going to be the main focus of the illustration today. And I was thinking that I wanted the weird things like flying turtles to be quite normal in the world. And I thought it would be nice if we just had, there's a guy, you can't really see, I'm using the wrong stylus, but there's a guy riding it, and he's just, it's completely normal to him. So I like the idea that he was like a special delivery courier, and this was like a completely normal thing, and he's got a couple of passengers which are the characters from the story. I've got a question here saying, how do you find working with the, how do you find working with the Jot Touch stylus? It's pretty nice actually. The pressure sensitivity is nice. I still, because of the way I hold the pen, I occasionally find that the palm, it's got like a palm recognition thing so it doesn't interfere. I still occasionally will accidentally hit a mark, so I still have to hover my pen slightly. But it is really nice for, I don't know if you can see on the sideways sketch, it's nice, you can get like a variation in opacity and it builds up nicely. And that's, yeah, it's quite a nice pen. It's certainly amazing how far they've come on in the last few years. And I'd really love to get hold of the new Apple Pencil with the iPad Pro coming out. That should be nice to see how responsive that is. Right, now what I would do, once I've got a sketch to this stage, I would then, because every app is now really handily integrated with Creative Cloud, just hit that, and then I would, you can either back it up to Creative Cloud, save it as a work in progress from Behance, or send it to Photoshop, which I will do now. And then this will open magically in Photoshop, which is great. I will move the iPad out of the way so you can see. Okay, that's just hiding down there for now. Let's get out of the way because I can't see I can't see anything there. There we go. Right. Now here we go. Let's change pens because I'm using a Cintiq 21UX, one of the really old ancient ones. So if anybody at Wacom wants to send me a new one, that'd be fantastic. But right, what I would do here is I would take, you see, Sketch CC has been really helpful and has separated the drawing, the sketch, onto its own layer. So all I have to do is, with a file I've opened earlier, this is just an A3 size, I just click, drag the layer across, and that's gone on to, sorry, that's gone on because I've got a clip layer because I've started working on stuff already. Let's move it down further. And my pen's being wonky, there we go. Right, so what I would do, I would drag it down to on a low layer. There we go. Pull this in. Command T to transform. We just turn it around. Click the link button here so it constrains the proportions, so I can just not worry about holding in shift. I can just go like that and play around. Try to hit, as you can see here, I often set up my illustrations with a rule of thirds guide to make sure the compositions are nice. Are all the apps on the Open Creative Cloud? Yes, they are. Yeah, everything, all the apps I'm using today are, as Adobe Line was there earlier, which is, yeah, that's just free from the App Store, which integrates with Creative Cloud. Adobe Sketch, and also Adobe Color I'll be using later. So I would, no, I'm not, that's not good. There we go. So I pull that to roughly around about there. So that's the basis of my sketch. So that's what I would do. Right, now let's kill that because here's a bit I pulled in earlier. Let's maximise the screen a bit. 2 seconds. There we go. Right, now there's my rough drawing. And I've moved the pieces into place. So if you can see my cursor. There we go. So these intersecting points, which I'm circling around now, these are the points where you want your action of your illustrations. So I've got like the main character, the pilot here, I've got a character here, and the turtle's face there. And so we've got three nice focal points to look at. So we can then hide that, and then we can hide. I've also got guides cropped for printing, just added a bit of bleed, which is nice. Cool, I'm just checking for questions. No, we're all good. Then what I did in, this is within Photoshop now, I added a more refined refs layer because I quite like to do really, really scribbled detailed pieces. And as you can see, this is all, some people will be able to see this through the soup and others will not see this at all. I've got a question, it says, hi David, is the drawing you sent from Sketch to PS vectorized? No, it's not in this case. You can do that if I was using Adobe Line, like the image of the young girl I showed, it was my daughter. Yep, that can absolutely be vectorized and that's fine. I knew I was going to do something very painterly with Photoshop with this, so in this case I just use Adobe Sketch, which doesn't use vectors. Hang on a sec, somebody's asking if I can click up through the... Oh, I missed a question there. Somebody's asking why I'm using the rules of third. Do you always use a compositional guide while setting up? Yes, I do. As a rule. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I'll just draw stuff. I mean, as you can see here, when I first drew this sketch, which is sideways, I just drew it roughly by eye and just filled up as much of the page as possible because I was using the iPad. And then let's get rid of that now, don't save. Then I pulled it into the whole piece and then used the rule of thirds just to sort of move it across so it sits nicely on the page. Is it easy for turning templates on this grid? Yes, it is. There's an easy way of doing this, which I will show you how I do it now, actually. We go, click on View. We go, New Guide Layout, which is a sort of fairly new feature in CC, which is lovely. You can control the... yep, this is all showing up, that's good. You could control the number of columns and the number of rows. And I always have a margin in, as I said, for bleed. So we can go... as opposed to 2, which goes to the midpoint, which is nice. If we go 3 and 3, and then hit OK, you've then got guides there, which you can just, if I switch to a brush, go really large for a second, you just hold in Shift when you press the brush down, and the brush, or the pencil tool in this case, snaps straight to the lines. So then you can do that. I'm going to undo that because I've done that on the drawing layer. But yeah, that's what I did there. I just did that and then just lower the opacity down to 28%, so it's there to it's there if you need it. But the view guides thing has really been improved. I think they've taken a lot from there. Yeah, somebody's just hang on. Let's scroll down a bit. Make sure I'm catching up on questions because I've just realised I've left the steps still. Okay, lovely. Right, back onto it. So, as you can see, yep, I've got kind of... It's a bit of a visual mess, but it makes sense to me, and I'm sure some people will be able to see stuff amidst the soup of lines there. Then, naturally, I would go on to adding line work. So I just lower the opacity down and start to work in my finished detail, which, as you can see here, this shows the characters all on the giant sky turtle taking the copy across. Hang on. Sorry, my questions have stalled again. I'm just trying to keep an eye on everything that people are asking at the same time. Right. Here we go. So yeah, to do the line work, if anybody's interested, we've got... I tend to tweak my own presets. There are some nice brushes around. This is my smooth tilt inking at 15% diameter and 5 pixels. I'm working on an A3 size. Somebody just said they like flying turtles. That's excellent. Lovely, thank you. Yeah, I'll just show you the inside of the workings of the brush, basically. It's minimum 15% diameter, so there's a tiny bit of thickness to it, which is nice. Nothing on the angle or the roundness, and I've got smoothing on. Let's keep smoothing on, I don't know why I changed that. And the spacing's down to 1. So this is just a really, like a nice smooth line, but it has, if we look at close, it still retains that hand-drawn look. Because there'll be elements where like the line isn't perfect and it's scribbled slightly, and I always quite like that. I like having I like it looking, and because I work 99% digital, but I still like to see that people that I've drawn it by hand. Because every time you tell people you've drawn it on the screen, they just say, "Oh, you just got a computer to do it." It's like, no, I've done it. But that's just the bugbear. Don't worry. Now, what I would do after that, once the line work's sorted, you are left with something that looks like that, which is sort of fairly clean. Now, I don't know if you can notice, but I've got areas of this. There's a theory called harmony. Oh, sorry, there's a question there. Which brush preset do you tweak? Let me just go back to the brush. All I did was lower the spacing down to 1%, so there's no gap in the stem. And it's in shape dynamics. It's the minimum diameter is 15%, which, like I said, it keeps a little bit of the thickness, so it doesn't go to a completely tapered point. So that's that. And then, yeah, I would draw in the lines and kind of go crazy in places where you just like have fun things. Because I was thinking, did I use reference and put it together? Was it spontaneous? Sorry, I will say that more slowly. I speak too fast sometimes. I've got two questions. One was how long did it take to draw that? And it did take a little while because, as you can see, I've gone a bit mental on detail. I've gone crazy on it. But it's kind of good fun. And it's, I don't know, I lose track of time when I'm doing stuff like this. It's quite nice. Alex has asked, hi Alex, did you use reference when putting it together, or was it purely spontaneous? This, almost all spontaneous, apart from when I was doing the final lines, I did briefly look at a turbine and how to draw a seagull, because I started to draw the seagull and it did not look quite right. So I did Google images a seagull to make sure I was drawing it correctly. But the rest of this is just random insanity that's coming from my head. Right, what was I saying? Yeah, one thing I've done with this is just an artistic thing. Oh, hang on, I've got a hit tan sequence, I like it. Let's move this. I'm moving your questions down again. Sorry, there's a bit of a lag here with this. There we go. Talking about harmony. Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. That's very helpful. You just prompted me. That's lovely. Yeah, so talking about harmony. Now, harmony is it's an artistic concept where it's kind of about balance. So images can be very boring if this was all really busy to look at. It would look really hard. Like you wouldn't enjoy watching it. Whereas also if it was really sparse, it would again be quite visually boring quite quickly. So what you do is, and this works with, in this particular example, line work, but this can apply to all things. It can apply to colour, the number of elements you have in something. You keep it varied, so it creates a harmony. See, like around this box here, if my cursor will show up, there we go, aspiring around there. That box is ridiculously detailed with lots of wood grain, but the area of, say, the turtle's fin, which it flies with, that is very sparse, and so that really that creates harmony. So it makes it easy to look at because your brain can look at like, oh, there's lots of little details there that I can look at, and then you can rest and see some like the calmer, bigger shapes on the shell, and so it helps you moving around. Ian's just asked how I would take things through the line work. The line work, yeah, sorry, I kind of ran ahead there. The line work is basically what I would do is to have the drawings underneath, and as you can see, I've actually drawn most of this now, but it would be the case of I just add bits based on lines that are there, and you can see, if I zoom in a touch, if I hide the line work, you can see like there are lines of the shell there, which if I hide it, and you can see where I've just gone over things, and I've just literally just drawn on, so like jump bang like that. I'm going to erase this because I want to paint this in manually. But it would just be like that. You just follow the lines and draw away, and I make up stuff as well as I go. Let's get rid of that. There we go. So yeah, it's how you decide to work in Photoshop versus Illustrator when beginning a drawing. That was a question from Jamie. I pretty much, to be honest, I've always used Photoshop. It's been one of those. It's one of the things I think years ago, Illustrator was much more dependent on the pen tool. And so I didn't really enjoy the pen. I enjoyed the rapidness of and the randomness of drawing freehand in Photoshop. So that's kind of why I always use Photoshop. As a rough guide, I would say use Illustrator for anything like post proper campaigns and things. Anything, because it can be infinitely scalable, is really beneficial. Illustrator doesn't hand painterly stuff as well, and so that's more where I kind of like to play. Right, let's see, any more questions? I'm trying to go through these as I do. How do I distribute the harmony, Dan has just asked. That's... when I did line work in Sketch as well, no I didn't, because I find I like a lot of... sorry, that was Owen's just asked, wouldn't you do line work in Sketch as well? You can do. I was still getting to know the pen, if you like. It's kind of, I like to be very precise, and I knew that this was going to be really detailed. I knew that bits of this were, like, if I zoom in, you can see it gets a bit crazy here with, like, there's a small skull and a bottle and a wooden crate with loads of grain. So I just went back to my Cintiq just because it's the more comfortable place for me to do it. Zaza says, OMG, this is amazing, thank you very much. And you're welcome, Jamie, for answering the question, that's no problem at all. How do I master all elements of the perspective? Sorry, that was a question from Rocrane. Experience, I guess. Sorry, that's a really rubbish answer. It's kind of... I've been drawing stuff for years and years and years, and you hear the old boring answer of practice your fundamentals. And that is the case. The more you do stuff, the more of it stays in your head, you get a muscle memory. It's like drawing a box now is just, there you go, this could be slightly rubbish actually, it's not very isometric. But you kind of get the isometric stuff straight away that's in your head, if you excuse the fact I've just drawn that freehand without leaning close, and so you then fix it. But yeah, kind of, just like that, and this kind of stuff stays in your head. So, you have to think about stuff. I don't, it's, I did draw this actually in the sketch. The character here, the pilot, the delivery man, if you see the original one, I've drawn his knees really high up. And that doesn't actually work. And so what I did, I've got a mirror that's actually just right here. I crouched down into position and took a look at myself, because you should always use a bit of reference to make sure you're doing stuff correctly. And I realised it was completely wrong. So I then looked at myself in the mirror and thought, okay, the legs come much further down and they don't lean up at all. So it's always worth looking at stuff, anything you're not sure of. It's very good. Charlotte has asked, can you say again which drawing tools you're using now? No problem at all. I'm using a Wacom Cintiq 21UX, one of the old versions that doesn't even have a radial menu, but it's really nice to it's really nice to use, and it works really. It's a really solid drawing machine. They're really nice. Right, another few questions. Do you use rotate tool much when viewing? No, sorry, that question was from Claire, NW. No, I don't. I would do if my Cintiq didn't actually... I can physically rotate it, so I can turn stuff. But yes, in certain circumstances I will use rotate. And yeah, it's useful. I think you need to. I think there are certain angles you need to rotate stuff. So I would use rotate if I wasn't physically moving my screen, which is just slightly quicker. But yes, absolutely. I've got a question from Stan saying, what model of Cintiq would you recommend for an entry in digital painting? The cheapest one? They're not cheap, and I would say if you were entering digital painting, I wouldn't go for a Cintiq, because they are a lot of money, and it's... because I got this because I was working on a book, and it helped me speed up working on the book, which then meant it paid for itself. But for years I used an old Intuos. I think the Bamboo is probably the entry-level tablet now. I think it's got tilt sensitivity and stuff. I'm not 100%, somebody will correct me. Right, I've got a message from the speaker man said, are you using an imaginary perspective? Yes, yeah. yeah, pretty much. It's I had no actual reference to flying turtles, so yeah, I just made stuff up. I was just sketching. In other words, could you rough the drawing up first and do simple line work on another layer? Yes, that's Ian again. Yes, Ian, that's always what I do. I always rough up first before doing the line work, because you can solve an awful lot of trouble in the line work in the rough stage, like me incorrectly drawing the legs. If you get to line work, then you tend to colour straight away, and then it's a lot more effort to fix things. More questions. Someone recommends using a Cintiq Companion 2. I would say it's probably quite a nice idea. Okay. Somebody's asking me to move on. Okay. Right, for colouring. Let's go to the next stage then. Right, here we go. This would be this is my flat colour stage, which I've saved in time because this is the most boring thing on earth to do. It really, really is dull. For advice, I would say I always switch to the pencil tool because it's alias pixels, and also use the polygonal lasso tool again with anti-alias unchecked, because it's much easier to just you can paint up to the edges. Then you don't get that weird thing where when you mask something and it's aliased, it then bleeds out when you fill it. And so that's nice and quick. And then keeping that on its own separate layer means that you can easily tweak colours should you need to. Hang on, I've got loads of questions coming in now. Am I using a graphics palette? Oh, thank you very much. There's some nice comments about the colours. Somebody's just said, Tom Q said they use a bamboo and it's perfect for entry level. Thank you for confirming that, Tom. That's good. That's what I was thinking. There's a question from T and Wolf saying, any advice for an old art director who always wanted to draw yet wants to start out with life, and now he wants to start. Got caught out with life rather. Just start drawing stuff. You'll find if something's more fun, then you'll do it more, and that's kind of how it worked with me. It's just like I go crazy if I can scribble, I think, and it's really, really nice. Yeah, just draw stuff. If you're just starting out, it's okay to copy stuff to learn from artists you admire. The most beneficial is drawing from life. If you can go out there and find stuff, and life drawing classes are fantastic. Anything like that where you're drawing from life, your brain really takes in the information really, really nicely. Right, more questions. Sorry, they're coming thick and fast now. Somebody, Personified has just said, this may be a weird question, but I only have the use... it's moved. Sorry, 2 seconds. There we go. Oh, sorry, there was just a quick one from Flim Flam. No, it wasn't drawn and scanned in. I used Adobe Sketch, the app on the iPad, to draw in my roughs and then moved it to Photoshop. So I've drawn it from there. So there was no scanning because no, drawing with paper kind of does my head in now. Where are we? Somebody was asking, I'm really sorry, I've lost your name. Oh, there we go. Personified. They said they only have use of one hand and they're interested again in the Cintiq. That's actually fine. It would take you a bit longer, just I'm right-handed and I draw with my right, and I do tend to use keyboard shortcuts just to make life quicker on my left, so I just like hit B to switch, draw something, hit L for a lasso. But I would say, yeah, it's still going to be perfectly fine to use. Alright, hang on, so many questions. How permanent is your colour palette at this point? From sorry, the questions are scrolling all over the place. It's not permanent. I'm always willing to change stuff as I go along with palettes. I just used it as a rough guide, and I probably will change stuff like as we go because it's always nice for that. Somebody's mentioned colour, which I am going to get to. Actually, I can kind of talk about colour now. Actually, let's do that. Let's switch. Sorry, this is kind of the way I work. I do it a bit, it's a bit all over the place. There we go. Let's bring my iPhone in. Right, now colour is absolutely brilliant for, well, colour and getting colour schemes. Let's move this so I can still see what people are saying. Adobe Color. Now, as you can see, if you've not used Color before, this is really, really helpful because you can just, there's my screen. That's what all of you are saying. There's my Cintiq. And so what you would do at any point is just to go tap to freeze, and you've got a sort of colour scheme there straight away. Now what you can do if you say, like, I didn't actually want the green that it's picked up, you then move it down to the grey, and then we'll take that blue across there, and that's actually quite a nice colour scheme. You can also, so you tick that. You can save it and publish it to Adobe if you want to. And this is my library of stuff that I've already worked on. Now, basically, I just took it through the steps just there that I used, just to take an image and selected the colours, and then it saves to Creative Cloud. So, the brilliance of this, when it saves to Creative Cloud, let's move that away, is that it turns up right in this tab here. And there you go, it's straight away. I've completely covered all of your screen, I'm very sorry. Hang on, let's move this. Right, yes, back into Creative Cloud. These are all of all the various colour schemes I've got, and they auto-update, they push straight to the cloud, which is really, really helpful. And for this, as an example, I used Happy Sky, which is one I made, and I put down the original 5 colours there that you can see, and all I've done is just taken the brush and just selected them, which you can even do just directly from here. Actually, you can just select and go, there you go, there's the pink. Then just either draw the pink or open the colour palette to change it slightly. As you can see, I've gone for a darker brown there, and I keep all the colours relative to the palette that I've chosen, and then flat fill away. Right, let's see more questions. Okay, cool. Hang on a second. I'm just going to try to catch up. Let's have a look. Sorry, Flim Flam says, sorry I wasn't clear. Does Adobe Sketch mean you no longer have to buy a tablet and pen? No, Adobe Sketch you use on the iPad or tablet, I'm guessing, and I did use an Adonet Touch Pro. However, there's a really cool app which they've just been released, which is Adobe Moleskin App, which only works if you have, you can see me, where's my Moleskin? Ah, there we go. Okay, so if we see where are we? Main view, yeah, there we go. You draw stuff directly onto your Moleskin. So you see this guy here. Right, there we go, this guy here. And then you just point your phone at the page, take a photo of it with everything in, and then it will make shapes alongside, like 2 seconds. Where are we? Headshot, that's the one. Let's just bring this in. So you can make it a scalable vector graphics. just by literally pointing and taking an image of it. And there we go, that's actually that sketch there. Which, if I bring that in, you can see that. Let's just make just that visible. And so that comes in just clear from your line work, which is really nice. And that's the Adobe Moleskin app. Excuse me. All right, let's bring that back in so I can see everything again. And then delete that later because I don't want to get confused by that. My God. Okay. All right. We have about 1,000 questions, so bear with me 2 seconds. Okay, right. Right, I'm going to keep on with work now. Getting on to the next stage because time's moving on. I'm answering tons of questions. What I would now do, once I've done my flat colours, is I want to bring in a background. And I figured a sky makes sense. So I brought in, this is another thing I love about integrating your workflow when you're out. I was just on the plane ride home. I'd just been on holiday, and so I just clicked and dragged from there into, that's my original. Now what I always do, it's underneath everything in the layer stack. It's underneath. I then make a copy because it's always nice to have the original photo if you need it for any reason. So I make a copy and then just stretch the thing out and so it covers the back. But as you can see, I'm going to edit the sky later, it won't just be a photo. But the sky doesn't fit with the colours. So what I would do is I hit an adjustment layer. So you go down there, hit adjustment layer, photo filter. In the drop down menu, I select sepia and then up the density of it to 100. And I put it in the wrong place, which will make more sense if I do it here. There we go. So, and then that just brings it in line a bit more. So that's quite nice, and now it's starting to feel a bit more like it. So, with that done, we now move on to shading, which I'm now going to hide this stuff because I'm going to do this from scratch because this was just a rough. Again, back to my colours, I've just picked a colour from my colour theme so it's all consistent. Excuse me. So we go for shadows first. So what we do, just select all that, clear it, and from scratch, I just select the brush tool and start to paint. So just there's the same brush I use for my drawing. Just make the brush a bit bigger. We start to lower it. Sorry, just bringing the filter there because I just ruined my layers. There we go. And clear that. And now we're good to go on this one. So yeah, we then start to draw in, and that's a 45 opacity on multiply. Sorry, I've got a question here saying, find it hard to determine where shadows go. How do you do it in such a busy detailed drawing? That's from Dan. It's sometimes, Dan, is going to be a bit of a fudge. You'll pick vaguely where you want the light to come from. In this case, I can kind of use the clouds and say it's coming from above this section here. Am I on the right bit? No, this section here. Now you can see my cursor coming from above here, coming down. So we're going to say that you try and like follow the form out a bit, and because there's less light coming from below than there is above, then we draw it in there like that. So I go in. So we take it like that. With the detailed drawing, sometimes you can sacrifice a certain thing. Not everything has to be shadowed precisely. You can get you can the smaller bits don't necessarily. It could get a bit fussy and distracting if you shaded every last element particularly as it should be. And so you don't want to harm your image, and one of the nice things about illustrating is you can control the world. That sounded a bit megalomaniac, didn't it? Let's go back to the actual shading I did. So we've got stuff there. So we just carry on. I'm shading with black, that's what's gone wrong. I thought something wasn't looking quite right with that. So go back to that, pick that shading colour, and then we carry on shading like that. So, let me see. Sorry, I'm trying to keep hold of questions and do stuff at the same time. Somebody with a smiley face as their name has just said, did you trace each section with lasso and then fill? No, in some places I did if they were more fussy, other places I just used the pencil tool. But yeah, it does take a long time, and that's why I didn't do this in the demonstration. Yeah, Dax and Paris, I will get to the clouds later. They're just in there as a placeholder because it's much better to draw to paint, especially with a background. If you paint against white, it throws your perception of colours, and you'll start to choose the wrong thing. It's kind of a weird thing that trick the human eye plays in it. So you give it the sort of background colours that you want, and then you can change the background later. So it's just to work so you're doing the right kind of thing. Right, let's carry on. Okay. I'll forget the questions for a second because I can't move the thing, move down. So yeah, what I'll be doing, I'm going for quite I'm going for like flat cell shading here because I quite like it. I sometimes paint in a more painty style, but for this case it's quicker as well. You can see what's going on more easily. I'm painting onto a clipping mask layer. I don't know if I mentioned that. The clipping mask layer means that if you watch this, if I make this nice and big, this brush, it will only paint on top of the existing pixels. So if I go like that, it's just going across the turtle's fin, as opposed to drawing all over the cloud, which is it's a really nice way of just making life simpler for you when you're shading. Do I ever use the colour dynamic option on the brush? I don't actually. That's Ale, I think, asked that one. No, I like to control my colours more, so any kind of dynamic colours, it can throw things off a bit. So, let's go back to this. I can't remember what I was saying. Yeah, I'm painting it with kind of, I like it being a bit of a dramatic sky, and it kind of makes sense because they're up in the clouds that you get more intense light. And it just looks a bit more interesting. So we go like that and draw stuff across. Bring thing. You can see I've got my pen set for tilt as well, so I can shade in like diagonally like that and just tilt down. Actually, it's quite small. I don't know if you can see that. So you can. I don't know if you see my cursor. If I make my cursor really big, I'll show you how it reacts. It's moving around as and when, so I can tilt it and control the kind of shading that I want to apply. But I tend to like making it a bit smaller so I can cut into things. And you can kind of suggest form with shadows. You don't have to colour every last bit of an image, which is always handy, because you can go a bit crazy with trying to create, like, colour every last bit or draw every last bit of something. And it's no good for deadlines either, if you get distracted like that. Hang on, sorry, there were some questions I could answer. Okay, somebody's more interested about the process. How do I tilt my brush? It's a Wacom Cintiq. It's just this is just a standard Wacom stylus, an old one, and it's got tilt sensitivity, so it just responds to the way I'm holding on the tablet. The name of the brush is just my own standard brush. It's just a typical Adobe brush. You can see the brush head. It's just like the standard chalk brush that's in Photoshop, just edited around. So let's carry on for a second. I've got a couple of questions which will show up as I carry on working. So okay, let's say for now, because time has really rocketed on, I would say we'll pretend I've done all the shading for now. I will come back to this later and finish this and cheat later on. With this, sometimes I would just leave it as just as shadows or paint with highlights. For this, I'm going to use both. You can see this is all kind of rough. Now you need to be a bit more sparing with highlights, because as you can see here, I don't like that far too strong. I'm on the wrong layer. There you go. Right, let's kill that, because that's too strong. The highlights need to be much more subtle than shadows, but they do work in places like this, because especially the characters are all flying in the sky, they're much closer to the sun, and it helps with the contrast of the image, which is really nice. Alex has asked if I'm using a multiply layer for shadows. I tend to use, for this, I use this blue here, which I picked from my colour palette. And I would recommend, Alex, using shadows that occur locally in your image for colours, because it will make everything feel like it belongs a bit better. Right, let's go on. Okay, so for highlights, I've done a similar thing. I've taken this. It's a slight sort of peachy colour, beige colour, and I'm painting on the highlights there to make everything look a bit more dramatic. Now, somebody just asked about making integrating a brush from Brush CC, and yes, absolutely. Now what I've done in the past here is, where's my phone? Hang on, I've got to bring my iPhone back in. Just try to find it. No, it's gone away, that's annoying. Okay, let's see if I've got brush on the iPad. Sorry, be 2 seconds. Adobe brush on the iPad, there we go. Right, let's bring this in. This is Adobe Brush CC. So I'm just going through this with the iPad. Now, Adobe Brush CC, which if I move my iPad cover, this is really, really nice because you can, if I go over to here, say, let's go to my keyboard. Okay, right, once it settles, there we go, there's my keyboard. Now you can move the slider to choose which bits of the image it takes. So that's quite interesting. So press the button to select it. Again, I'm doing this sideways, sorry about that. So we take that, and then, there we go. Now this creates, this gives you a number of options for brushes, which is really, really nice. We've got you can make Adobe Sketch brushes, which will work for Adobe Sketch, and you can test them out. And that's the kind of effect you would get with using Adobe Sketch, which would be quite nice for patterns if you wanted to do that. Adobe Illustrator Brushes, which will follow your brushstrokes, so yeah, if you're using Illustrator, this could actually be really, really nice to have stuff that follows the paths of brushes. It should be really, you can play with some interesting stuff. Let's go for, that's quite nice as an effect. You can then hit, once you apply that, you can go, actually no, let's not do that yet, let's refine it. Edit. Just to show you some of the options that you have. Edit, so let's go to, you can crop it, so you can bring it in a bit if you want to, or stretch it out. It's all just, and you've got a brush preview that you can see there as well. So you can see how I'm changing how the brush will work in Photoshop. Obviously Photoshop works with black and white stamp brushes. You can refine things, so if I select theirs to reduce, so you can take the detail of the keys there if you want to. And I'm just literally painting with my finger now, just to take off the detail of the keys. Or if I wanted, I can change it to add and bring the stuff back. So I can bring the information back, and that's all fine. We can play with the size of the brush, so we can get that all pretty big. It's clear there, so you can see what you're doing with the brush. So that will give you that kind of effect, which is nice. It's an instant background. Sorry, somebody's just asked if this works on older versions of the iPad. It does. It works. I'm working on an iPad 3. I think the iPad 3 is the oldest version that it will work on. But other than that, yep, that's all. Oh, somebody said it works on their iPad 2 when they have one. Oh, fair enough. There we go. It's one further back than that. Let's say, yeah, size. You can change the minimum size of how things go, which obviously affects how the brush looks a bit. So take that back. Angle, you can have it so it's got none, so it will just come up flat. So if I clear like that, it just stamps. Directional, which if I clear again, will change the direction of the stamp, much like you'd expect with the way that I'm moving. And initial, which will just make everything, no matter where I move the stylus or your finger, it will always, oh shoot, what the hell? My iPad's just died. Excellent, my iPad's just reset itself. Okay. But basically, once you do that, you can, all I did, there was pressure and spacing and jitter to go over as well. But they're all fairly straightforward. It's a good technical problem. Once you've done that, you can see we've still got the save screen there. So save works when my iPad reboots itself. And then, again, in your Creative Cloud library, this is the really, really cool thing about the CC integration now. It's really, really nice. Is that it works with, it brings in everything. Because you can see I've got all of my colours, and this is just my library. You can access everybody's library and colour. You've got all of these, all of the colour schemes that I've made. The brushes just come straight here, and you can use them. And some of them they're greyed out if they're vector brushes like Illustrator brushes, but they are available as soon as I open Illustrator, say for example, they will all be there. And also your graphics. So this is stuff from Adobe Shape, which are SVG, Scalable Vector Graphics, and they will get, you can just drag those in. But I tend to, what I do, I will make something in Shape normally first, and because then you can just pull it into Brush, which I quite like doing, so you can have the shape and the brush based on the same thing, which is nice. Let's go for brushes that I made. This was, excuse me, sorry, my throat's a bit dry. This brush is, let's start a new layer to paint on. This is one based on another image, and it's kind of stamped. If I make it really big, you'll see. I've got it to tilt. So this is just called Outpost, which is the name of the thing. Let's pick one of the colours from the palette for this. So let's go dark blue. And you can see there it's starting to just stamp the image in, and it's moving around as and when. So I can start to do some quite cool stuff. And I can just change the colour. I mean, obviously you can choose any colour you like. You don't need to just stick to the colour palette. Let's use one from here. Let's go dark blue. Make the brush smaller. Like that, and you can just build stuff up. Let's make it much, much, much smaller. And then you can. I'm annoyed that that brush I was just making died, because that would have been quite nice. Let's go this and make it brighter. So you can get kind of like effects brushes, which means that you can really easily generate a background with this. I've got. Is this going to show? Let's like open one. This one I did the other day. There we go, Monkey Island Experiment. Let's open this one. This is when I basically took a copy of this image into Adobe Shape. And when it loads, there we go. I just took this element of the pirate LeChuck here, which you can see in my Creative Cloud thing is, I've got a Monkey Island one there, which is just like a scalable vector graphic. You can just click and drag these, and they will just add into the page if you want to. And you move them around, hit return, and that's there. That's just like straight in, so you can do what you want and transform that. Right, sorry, just check questions. I just realised I've been talking for ages without looking up. I'm very, very sorry. iPad 2, works on iPad 2. Someone's CC's gone down, sorry about that. How do you rotate the brush? The brush is in the. Sorry, Lassie's asked how I rotate the brush that I made. It's just literally in the settings in Adobe. Like I said, unfortunately my iPad's just crashed, which is really annoying. But it's in the settings. You can choose it to. You can actually choose rotate as an option, and it will just move around as it goes around, and you can make it to fit the direction, just like any other standard Adobe tool. Any brush stuff. Charlotte's asked if I love your colour scheme, can you find it on Adobe Colour? Most likely, yes. I think I've published most of my stuff, but if not, I will share that and make it public. That's no problem. And thank you, Reef. I'm glad you like LeChuck. Yeah, so for this one, as an example of what I did with shapes, sorry, the brushes, I would have taken the brush, which again is in my CC library, so Guybrush Threepwood. Or Threepwood Guybrush, I've called it backwards. Let me see. I think it's this one, it's Bright and Happy. So we go to this one. You can literally just pick all of these out of the panel as well, which is nice. You don't have to load it up anywhere, just directly from colour. So we go for that, and then this was just, let's draw it on a layer I can draw on. There we go. So you get nice and small there, so it looks like a small sort of burning effect. If we start with red, you can just build up the effect as well. So if we get, let's go a bit bigger, a bit bigger, a bit bigger. That's red like that, and then we switch to orange, make it a bit smaller, bring that in, and we go to a yellow like that. And you can see how you can just build up effects, and that's actually quite a nice brush effect in itself. And like that, and so that's a really useful way of integrating Adobe Brush which is really, really good. Hang on a sec, somebody's asking a question. Is it a shortcut while I work? Lastly, I'm not sure what kind of shortcut you're referring to. If it's about the brush, no, it's the brush is just set to rotate. That's what I did with that. Right, I just realised I'm really rocketing out of time. So I will not save my calendar. We'll just close that one down. But that shows you how the backgrounds work. Again, I'm not going to have time. I apologise because somebody called me on the clouds don't really fit, and it's something I will fix later in the illustration, but not right now. So what I would do is hide that stuff. For those of you just interested in more my illustration technique, we're going to get a quick flyby tour of this and how this works. Oh, somebody's asked. Brandon asks, loving the drawings, do you find it easy to draw on lots of layers or fewer the better? Fewer the better as a rule. I will keep line work on one layer, roughs on one layer, flat colours. There's either or both of a shading layer and a highlight layer, which I do keep separate just because you can create different moods with that. But no, other than that, drawing I tend to keep on the same stuff just because it's much easier to manage that way. Sorry, do all the apps work with CC, like Adobe Color, etc., only work on CC programs? I'll leave that one for Adobe to answer. Right, back onto illustration stuff. Right, now normally I would do this with the background, but because I've not finished the sky, let's do it with the background. Go to the top of the layer stack and hit Command, Alt and 2. And what that will do, you see there'll be a selection will turn up on your screen in a second. That selected the luminosity of the image. Now all you need to do there is just hit Shift Command and C and then Shift Command and V, and it will paste that information directly on top where it was before. Then you change the layer to Overlay, which then just makes all the colours look a bit nicer and sweeter. It's quite nice, but not finished yet. Excuse me. We're going to Blur and Gaussian Blur. Bring it up. Now this is one you kind of want to do by eye, so you're more referring to this box than there. But you can have, when you blur it slightly, let's go a bit further and see that that's way too far. Okay, there I think there's a nice, you notice there's like a light bloom, there's a glow coming over. Now that, let me see here. See, that's, if I hide this, you can see the effect it has. With the overlay layer, it richens with the own colours it's using the light that's established in the image. Which it's a really nice trick. I really like just the way the natural light scatters. Stefano's asked what resolution I use. At least 300 dpi. That's the absolute minimum for printing. Don't use less than that because you'll run into problems, and especially in Photoshop you can't blow stuff up, it starts to lose quality. So always at least 300 dpi, and for this particular image I'm working on A3 size. So just in case it needs to be like a big poster size, that's possible. I think that's fine for questions. Yeah, so we've got this kind of nice glow. I'm quite conscious of time now, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else I typically do. I will either have normally a texture, some sort of painting texture or something, but I've not got enough time to look through all my files and drag in something appropriate. But a kind of paint texture that's been scanned in or photographed and set to normally overlay is quite nice, soft light if there's a lot of weird colour detail in the painting. And then bring the opacity down a bit just so you've got some texture. Alternatively, you can add a layer of digital grain, which I've got a shortcut for this. But effectively, I'll put something down on a website somewhere to show you how to do this, because I've done this in tutorials before. But it adds, if it works, we've got weird, it's thinking about it. It's doing it now. It's basically adding noise, as you can see now. There's lots of noise. And it's blurred a couple of times. already, pre-baked, and then you lower the opacity to anywhere between, it's got to suit the image, but between say 2% and 20%. You can bring it down, and it just adds a nice grain to it and stops everything feeling too digital, like where it's like all too flat and busy. It just adds a nice kind of finish to it sometimes. Rocrane's just said, sorry, they missed. How do you select the highlight colours? Right, for the Mac, it's Command, Alt and 2. And that will give you the selection. And then you can copy all the colours and paste them back in. I don't know what it is for PC. I've got a feeling it's something different, because it is changed with a couple of versions of Photoshop as well. Heather, thank you very much. That's absolutely lovely. Yeah, I guess I'm really sorry. There's so much to talk about. I've kind of run out of time, but I hope you learned something about Adobe Brush, even though my iPad crashed and I couldn't show you it finishing properly, and the kind of effects it can use. Adobe Shape is also really good. Color is fantastic for integration, and obviously, yeah, they play around with the CC stuff, because I didn't realise. Oh, somebody's just said, Roy Blumenthal, thank you very much, Roy. It said it's Control Alt 2 on PC, which I thought was something more complicated than that, but I think that was an older version. Excuse me. Lovely stuff. Thank you very much for the nice comment. There's some quite flattering comments as well, thank you. Yeah, I'm quite happy to... If anybody wants to email me questions for further help or assistance, it's david@coolsurface.com, which my website is also www.coolsurface.com. And yeah, I would try to help answer questions, and hopefully got something good from that, because it all carried on. Wow, there's loads of things going on. Yeah, sorry, that's what I was saying. Use the apps, experiment with them. Color's fantastic, and all the CC integration is now just really easy to access in that tab, so it's really helpful, and it really speeds up your... Thank you, Roy Blumenthal, for sharing my my URL in the comments. That's very helpful. Amsterdam, what will I do to the background? I will blur it and paint over it. There will be elements of it will still be in place, but it will be changed. I'll change it so you can't see England on the floor. It would be changed. Where can we see the finished thing? Yeah, this will be part of a comic book. Yeah, it's a comic called Falling, which I'm developing it right now. I will release it its own proper blog at some point. Have a proper presence so people can see exclusively that. Because it's a good fun story, and I think lots of people like it. Right, I think that's probably... I'll see if there are any last minute questions, because I'm slightly overrunning on time, but let's see. Good lord, there's so many things coming in now, it's ridiculous. Okay, no, I think that's probably it. People are being really nice and saying lots of nice things, so thank you very much. I've really enjoyed this. I hope I haven't spoken too fast or gone over too many points. I tried to cover lots of stuff. So hopefully you found it useful, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And thank you very much. I appreciate it. And you're all saying such lovely things, so that's really great, and that's making my day. Thank you. You're all awesome. I love each of you, especially you. So thank you very much, and yeah, hope you enjoy the rest of your day.